So it's all about Ben, all about Ben's story. He actually had to move as a veteran an hour and a half away for his new job. Yeah, that's a long ways to commute. He was a veteran and he was in a new job, and the home that he had, he was just wondering if he could use his entitlement for a second time. That's a really big deal for veterans. Can they reuse their benefits? Well, the answer is yes. They can reuse it if they plan it right. So Ben and I talked about the options. We spent a little bit of time talking through what second entitlement was and how much of it could possibly be left. And if he got another loan, what would that mean to him? Would he have to bring some money for the down payment? Because that second tier entitlement, sometimes you do have to bring a little bit if you've used up most of your available entitlement with your certificate of eligibility. So we talked to Ben, we explained how it worked. It has two levels. We have the first level when you buy your first home, and then the second tier entitlement, which worked well for him. His leftover entitlement really covered most of the loan, and all he had to do is bring a very small amount towards closing. We showed him how renting out of his old house could actually help him too with the transition, and if the tenant was paying the rent, that could cover the mortgage. Having a renter locked in to help satisfy the VA. Rules on income, yeah, rent is like extra income. It actually really helped. This made Ben's finances look stronger on paper and actually gave him a really good setup to be able to move forward. Plus, Ben actually has some service-related disability. And that's actually good news, because once you have more than 10% of that, it waives your funding fee. That's thousands of dollars. That was a really good move on his part. So we actually helped him. We helped him understand what it was that he was looking at, helped him understand what he needed to do to get there. And then we actually had a really good conversation about how sellers should be comfortable with the VA loan, because they are guaranteed. And it's not like a conventional loan that doesn't really have a guarantee or backing. In this case, it is backed by the VA. And it only takes a little bit longer on average than a conventional loan, usually 3 to 4 days. So there's no real requirement for the seller to pay closing costs or to do appraisals, but they can if possible. These are all really good things that we saw that were helpful for Ben as he started looking towards buying this next home, because he needed a little bit of cash. He was moving an hour and a half away from where he was unexpectedly because of a new job. So he needed a little bit of extra cash. We were able to figure out how much he could get. He could get up to 4% from the seller to actually help him with closing costs, or to pay down some of his debt. It was a safe, strong offer we put together, and it was backed by the VA guarantee. This is actually perfect for him. So during negotiations, Ben could even ask the seller to contribute a little bit more. We figured out how to get this to work for Ben. In the end, Ben got his new home. He kept the VA loan on his old home. He now has it rented out, so he's now a landlord. He's making some passive income, and also has increased his cash flow because of this. And he used the remainder of his VA entitlement to put a small down payment on a new house so that he wouldn't have to commute as far as what he was doing. This story shows that veterans many times don't realize how much benefits they have with a VA loan, and that the VA loan can be used more than once. Even if you've used it before, your entitlement, if you sell the house, refinance, or other, you may have restored enough to be able to use the VA loan again. And if you do have something on a departing residence, you can rent that home out. That's actually a really good way to do it. There are so many perks, no mandatory down payment, and your entitlement should cover a good part of it. No mortgage insurance, government backing. What else is there to like about this? This is a fantastic way to get set up. Well, here it is. If you're a veteran who's struggling to figure out how you're going to make this work, and you want to talk about a VA loan, yeah, just hook up. In my information down below, you're going to find contact information. We can spend a little bit of time going through this. I'm Chris Parks with Parks Mortgage Group at Churchill Mortgage. Love the opportunity to spend a little bit of time with you talking about how we can help you and how we can turn Ben's success into the same kind of success that you can have in buying a home, and maybe even use your secondary entitlement. Looking for the opportunity to talk.